All right. So, something that's been on my mind a lot lately is sports betting. It seems like with all these apps popping up, it's everywhere. It feels like everybody's placing bets these days. So I thought it'd be interesting to take a deep dive into this whole phenomenon and, try to understand how it all works, especially the financial side of things. Like, is it really that different from investing in the stock market? Can you actually make serious money from it, or is it just entertainment?
Well, you're actually spot on to see a connection between the two.
Hmm.
The sports betting market in the U.S. is absolutely exploding right now. Research from Goldman Sachs shows it's gone from $10 billion to potentially $45 billion in just a few years.
Wow, that's incredible. It's hard to even grasp how much growth that is.
Yeah.
What do you think is driving that kind of massive increase?
Well, a big part of it is definitely legalization and easier access to these apps, but it's also the excitement around it. Like if you look at companies like DraftKings, their stock price has more than doubled since 2020. That shows you there's a lot of investor confidence in this industry. And that kind of buzz definitely trickles down to everyday people. People see that and think, hey, maybe this is a way I can make some money too.
So, is it all hype then? Or can sports betting actually be a legitimate way to build wealth? I mean, some people say it's just entertainment, while others are treating it like a serious investment strategy.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? To really understand that, we need to compare it to more traditional investing. Something like the S&P 500, which tracks the performance of 500 of the largest U.S. companies. You can think of it as a snapshot of the overall stock market. Now, Chris Woods, a certified financial planner, says investing in the S&P 500 is a long game. It has average returns around 10% per year, and that adds up to roughly 159% every decade. So the question is, can sports betting match that kind of consistent growth?
You say long game, but, some people try day trading, buying and selling stocks rapidly. Isn't that more similar to the quick wins and losses you see in sports betting?
It's true that day trading aims for those short-term profits, but it still relies on analyzing market trends and company performance. It's not just about luck or gut feeling like a lot of sports bets are. And the risks are incredibly high. Even very experienced day traders struggle to consistently beat the market.
Okay, that makes sense. But I think for a lot of people, sports just feel more familiar than the stock market, you
Hmm.
know? You know the teams, the players, the rules, so it makes betting seem less intimidating, right?
Yeah, and Chris Woods actually brought that up too. He said that familiarity can be a double-edged sword. It might make you feel more confident, but it doesn't guarantee you'll actually win. It's easy to let your emotions and biases influence your bets, even if you think you're being totally logical.
So even if you're a diehard fan and think you have all this inside knowledge, it might not translate to actual profits.
Exactly, that's the thing.
That's really interesting. So let's get to the heart of it then. How does sports betting, especially when it becomes a regular thing, actually impact your finances? We came across some research from Northwestern BYU and the University of Kansas that I think really shed some light on this.
Oh yeah, that research is fascinating. It actually found a direct link between frequent sports betting and people having less money saved. Basically, people are taking money that could be going into safer investments or towards their financial goals,
Mhm.
and they're putting it into these risky bets instead.
So it's not just about the money you might lose on a bet, it's also the missed opportunity to grow your wealth over time. That's a point that Chris Woods really emphasized.
Exactly, he called it the opportunity cost. Think about it this way. Imagine you bet, say, $50 every week on your favorite team. That's $2,600 a year. If you invested that money in the S&P 500 instead, with its average return, you could have significantly more money in the long run.
Wow, yeah, putting it like that really puts things into perspective. It's almost like choosing between instant gratification and long-term financial stability. But I imagine there are other financial consequences too, right?
Oh, absolutely. The research also showed that for people who are already struggling financially, heavy sports betting can make things even worse. It can lead to more credit card debt, lower credit scores, and more overdrafts. It can become a really dangerous cycle.
Yeah, it's easy to see how that could spiral out of control. It's like trying to dig yourself out of a hole by digging deeper. But I'm curious, what is it about financial stress that seems to push people towards riskier behavior, like betting?
That's a great question. To understand that, let's bring in another expert, Frank Perret, who's also a certified financial planner. He pointed out that financial stress can actually make it harder for us to think clearly and make rational decisions.
Okay, I can see that. When you're under a lot of pressure, it's tempting to look for a quick fix, a way to make a lot of money fast. And betting, especially if you think you have some special knowledge because you follow sports, can seem like that solution.
Exactly. Frank said that when people are stressed, they tend to overestimate their chances of winning and downplay the risks. They're hoping for that one big win to solve all their problems, but that can actually lead to even bigger losses and more financial instability.
So it's not just about the money itself, it's also the psychological impact of that financial stress that can lead to these bad decisions.
You got it.
It's like your emotions are kind of hijacking your logic.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why it's so important to really understand both the financial A&D, the psychological aspects of sports betting before you place that bet.
So we've talked about how financial stress can really mess with your decision making and how that allure of quick wins can be, well, super misleading. But is there any way to actually enjoy sports betting responsibly? Or is it always kind of a slippery slope?
Well, both Chris and Frank believe that responsible sports betting is possible, but it definitely requires a good amount of discipline and, a bit of a mindset shift. It's more about treating it like any other form of entertainment, not some get-rich-quick scheme.
I like that. That's a good way to think about it. Like you wouldn't blow your whole paycheck on,
Yeah,
a night out or something. So you shouldn't be betting more than you can comfortably afford to lose either.
exactly. Frank actually suggests setting up a specific budget just for betting, totally separate from your bills and essential expenses, like an entertainment fund.
Yeah.
A set amount you're okay with spending just for the fun of it.
So like similar to how you might budget for, I don't know, concerts or movies or whatever, you put aside a little bit for betting, knowing that you might not see that money again.
Right. And Chris also really emphasizes the never bet what you can't afford to lose rule. It seems simple enough, but it's easy to get caught up in the excitement and kind of lose track of your limits.
Yeah, for sure. I can see how that could happen, especially if you're on a winning streak, feeling super confident. But what if you find yourself chasing losses or betting way more than you planned? How do you know if it's actually becoming a problem?
Well, that's a really important thing to be aware of. Those signs of problem gambling. Like if you're constantly thinking about betting, feeling the urge to chase those losses,
Hmm.
or even lying to your friends and family about your betting habits, that's when it might be time to get some help.
And there are resources out there for that.
Yeah, absolutely. The National Problem Gambling Helpline is a great place to start. Their number is 1-800-426-2537. You can also text 800-JAM to 800-426. They even have help available through chat on their website. And, there's absolutely no shame in reaching out for support.
Yeah, it's like any other health issue, really. Getting help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Yeah.
So let's kind of bring it all back around here. We started off by asking if sports betting is really that different from investing. What would you say is the main takeaway?
I'd say the answer is a definite yes. While they both involve risk and potential reward, the approaches, the strategies, and the long-term outcomes are totally different.
Yeah, it's like comparing a sprint to a marathon, right?
Mm.
Sports betting is about those quick bursts of excitement, those potential wins, whereas investing is more like a slow and steady commitment to growth over time.
Exactly. And understanding that difference is super important for making smart decisions about your money. Before you place that next bet, ask yourself, is this just for fun? Or am I actually relying on this for my financial security?
That's a great question to keep in mind because at the end of the day, it is your money, and making choices that line up with your goals and values is key. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the excitement around the industry to the psychology of it all. And of course, that important comparison to traditional investing. I hope this deep dive has given everyone listening a new perspective on this whole world of sports betting.
Yeah, and remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about different financial options, the better you'll be at navigating this whole complex world of money and making choices that can really help you achieve your goals.
Wow, we've really explored a lot today. Everything from the massive growth of the industry to the psychology behind betting, and of course, comparing it all to traditional investing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how much there is to consider, even with something that seems as simple as just placing a bet.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, I want to make sure everyone listening knows where to find more information. We'll have links to all that research we mentioned in the show notes.
And remember, this is just the beginning, really. There's tons of information out there about personal finance and making smart decisions. Don't be afraid to reach out to a financial advisor, too, if you want some personalized guidance.
That's a great point. Sometimes that expert perspective can make a huge difference. And hey, you can always come back and listen to this deep dive again, too, whenever you need a refresher. So as we're wrapping up here, what's the one big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with today?
I think the most important thing is to approach sports betting, or really any financial decision, with a clear head. and a critical eye. Don't just get caught up in all the hype or the promise of easy money. Do your research, really understand the risks, and make choices that align with your own financial goals.
That's great advice. Knowledge is power, right? Being an informed decision maker is the key to real financial well-being. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time for another exciting exploration into, well, who knows what.